What's going on YouTube? Cloverbells here, back with another Scarlet Violet video, and today we're going to be spotlighting yet another cool Regulation H team, and that is a little bit of a unique take on the hard trick room idea. And with Gholdengos coming up this weekend and also heading into Las Vegas, I'd expect this hard trick room team to still do decently well into both of those. This has been on the rise a little bit as of late, and the one I have on the screen here has been used by Brian Collins from Milwaukee Regionals, right? He had a very, very strong outing over there. I believe he got top 4 over there, right? So this is actually a pretty cool idea with the hard trick room team. Yes, you do have Indeedee, Hatterene, and Torkoal here. These are relatively standard options, but then all of a sudden you have the Throat Spray Farigiraf over here with expanding force, right? Able to take advantage of Indeedee's terrain here and still deal out some pretty good damage. Remember, Farigiraf is still a psychic type, right? And 110 special attack may not be like super amazing, but in a lower power creep, it's actually pretty good. And then when you add the fact that it can get a +1 boost from the Throat Spray, now all of a sudden these expanding force are going to be chipping for tons of damage and may even just sweep the other team if they're not prepared, right? And then the Specs Torkoal, of course, you know, in the end, if you're able to force a KO onto the Indeedee, then you can just bring in the Torkoal under Trick Room and then just go for Terrifier, Choice Specs, Eruption plays, right? And then the other movesets are relatively standard with Heat Wave, Weather Ball, and Earth Power. But that is not what makes the team unique. In fact, the Indeedee, Hatterene, Life Orb, and the Torkoal are relatively standard here, right? Now, again, besides the Farigiraf, you also have this Incineroar over here with the Clear Amulet along with Close Combat here. And this is a very interesting idea because usually you'll see something like the regular Ursaluna on teams like this, right? So it's usually like, you know, Indeedee, Hatterene, Torkoal, regular Ursaluna, right? And then something like a Gallade, you know, with that fighting coverage, and then something else there, right? In that last filler slot, usually it is the Hisuian-Lilligant, and that's exactly what we have here. But in this case, the Clear Amulet Incineroar is interesting, right? Especially with the close combat tech, because if you just think about the hard trick room archetype in general, that kind of idea, you know, with like Indeedee, Hatterene standard leads, kind of struggles against stuff like Gholdengo, right? It also struggles against, you know, the Blood Moon Ursaluna, right? Because these things can just you know, they can just go for make it rain, right? Big damage, and then just kind of sweep you, right? Because, you know, Hatterene doesn't want to be taken to make it rain, right? You're forced to either go for that Terrifier or that Terra Water to even just try and live. And then usually they even have like their own Incineroar, right? Where they can just, again, not even take expanding force damage, thus forcing you to have a fighting type on your team like a Gallade, right? But in this case, we only have the Lilligant here, right? And a close combat after -1 Intimidate is not going to KO. All right, and then at the same time, you have to also consider something like a Rillaboom that can come in, even with Terrifier here, where you're able to resist Dazzling Gleam damage, resist Flare Blitz damage, right? Take away Indeedee terrain. Now all of a sudden you can't really click Expanding Force. So now even Rillaboom becomes rather annoying, right? Especially for your Torkoal, because again, with Terrifier, you can't really hit it all that well, especially, you know, only with your Choice Specs Earth Power, right? So in the end, options like that can prove a little bit interesting, right? So this is where Incineroar comes in handy with the Clear Amulet. So one thing, their Incineroar can intimidate you, you get to intimidate their Incineroar, and then at the same time, you with your own Incin on this team get to put pressure against their Gholdengo, right? Forcing them to potentially Terra, right? Either the Terra Water idea, but anyway, you're tearing away from the Terra Steel / Terra Ghost because again, very vulnerable to the Flare Blitz and the knockoff idea, right? And then at the same time, you know, if they want to bring like maybe something like a Tyranitar into you, right? Where you can take away Torkoal Weather. This is where close combat also has really good ideas there. And then at the same time, you can have your own close combat into another Incineroar. Like for example, you could even do like Helping Hand, close combat from your Indeedee into this Incineroar, into their Incineroar too. And also into their Blood Moons and also into their regular Ursalunas. So in the end, this Incineroar has pretty good offensive pressure, and I think that's the way you're going to have to play this Incineroar on this type of team. I don't have Brian Collins' EV spreads here, right? But I do suspect with the Incineroar like this, it would have to be like some slow Adamant variant or maybe even like a slow Brave variant, right? And that is my guess. So we'll give you a sample spread that you can try out as well. So this way, you can give it a shot as well, but also just keep in mind the Farigiraf here, because again, with both Incin and Farigiraf on the same team, they have the same speed tier. Again, both base speed 60, so at the very least have 1 point of a difference between the two, so this way you know the interaction. The one thing I will say with Farigiraf here is you might consider some EV investment in the speed. This is just so that, you know, if you don't fake out their Incin, if you fake out their other slot, their Incineroar can go for knockoff onto your Farigiraf if they're faster, and then take away your Throat Spray, right? They may even have the faster parting shot. So then your Farigiraf will just go to neutral instead of +1. So you have to consider that as well. So you might even consider putting investment in speed. Otherwise, force the fake out into their Incin and maybe force out a Terra Ghost. And then that means you can hit it later on with something like Expanding Force, where normally you would not be able to do that because of their dark typing. Okay? But otherwise, the team plays relatively standard, right? With, you know, Indeedee Hatterene, you know how this plays, right? Follow me, Trick Room, click Expanding Force, click Dazzling Gleam, Helping Hand, Dazzling Gleam, right? Force the KO onto the Indeedee, bring in Torkoal, right? Then you just go for these Eruption, Expanding Force plays, basically spread moves for days, right? And in a format where there's not much wide guard, stuff like this can do relatively well, right? Because there isn't as much wide guard. The Pelipers are forgoing that, right? And there's not that many Gallades running around either, right? So this is pretty favorable to say the least. But besides that, I do like Expanding Force with Indeedee here. I think it's quite a useful tool here, right? So you have Expanding Force here with the Farigiraf, and you also have the Expanding Force with the Hatterene as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to create some EV spreads for this team, and then this way you can have it yourself, and then we'll show you a couple of test games, so this way you can kind of see how the team may pilot. I will say that this also isn't technically a new idea. We've seen this before from Frankfurt. There was another player that also had this type of team from Gonzalo here. I have it on the screen. The only main difference with Gonzalo here, you know, besides the EV spreads, I would imagine from Brian Collins, is the Terra on the Farigiraf here. Whereas Brian had the Fire Terra on the Farigiraf. This is good for Gholdengo resistance, right? Make it rain stuff, or even against like other fire moves. And then Gonzalo here is just going for Terra Dragon, where again, Electro Shot resistance, other, you know, like grass resist, fire resist, all that fun stuff there. So that was like the main difference. Everything else looks pretty much the same. So we'll have to see. Oh, this was also Terra Fire Instant, so a little bit more of an aggressive Flare Blitz, right? Whereas Brian was going for Terra Grass. This is going to help you, you know, get around a Mungus Spore. This is going to help you against, you know, the Earth Power from a Blood Moon, or like an Earthquake, or Headlong Rush from another Ursaluna, for example. So for obvious reasons. And then, of course, the Water Resist at the same time from something like Basker Legion. That also helps as well. So feel free to try out either one, right? But either way, I think we're just going to use Brian's here because, again, this was a little bit more recent, right? Frankfurt was a little bit more in the past. So we'll just go with this, okay? So back to the beginning with Farigiraf. Let's see if we can slap on some EV spreads here. Okay, so with here on the Farigiraf, I think regardless of what kind of HP you make, I think you always want to keep yourself out of range of the final Gambit Annihilate, right? So at the very least, you can start out with something like this where you can go 180 investment in the HP. This will at least put you out of range of said final Gambit from the Annihilate. And then what I like to do here, because I do suspect at least sometimes maybe the Rillaboom will come into a matchup like this, let's optimize the HP for that, right? So let's go for a factor of 16 here. So 224 is where I want to be with something like this. Then obviously I want to either go something like Quiet or Modest, where I'm going to be taking advantage of the Throat Spray, right? So I'm pretty sure this is a more of an offensive set. So at least with the Farigiraf here, we can go to about, you can still go Modest 156 here, right? But this again is an odd number here, and an odd number with the +1 boost from the Throat Spray, that'll round down, right? Because again, it's a decimal value. So at the very least, push it one more just so that you can get this even number here, right? And again, the reason why I chose 156 is because this is the second bump in the damaging stat here. And again, if you're trying to create EV spreads for competitive Pokemon and you're not really understanding what EV bumps are, make sure you comment below asking what are EV bumps. I will reply and respond to you because, again, very fundamental skill to understand if you want to create other EV spreads besides just the simple 252 stuff, right? That we do follow a template, right? When we do create EV spreads, like we're going to show you with the Farigiraf and also with the Incineroar. So if you don't know what EV bumps are, that is step one. So ask below what are they, and I will reply and respond to you. And we also have a whole video on this where we go through a couple of examples step by step. But again, if you don't want to watch the video, just ask and I will still answer you. Okay. Anyway, so we got the HP stat that we wanted. We got the special attack bump here, but +1, right? So this way we get a nice even number here. Then after that, you got 116 EVs left to play with. I'm just going to put 1 point in speed here. So because again, this is meant to also function in the Trick Room. Now, make sure again with your Incineroar that you don't make that same speed, right? Because again, you will speed tie your Farigiraf and you won't know the interaction, right? So at the very least, make it at least 2 points higher or more. So this way you know who's going first between the two. All right. Then with these 112 EVs here, I really just wanted to survive a 5-hit scale shot from Dragonite after a -1 Intimidate. And that is going to be about this 76 investment here in defense. That guarantees it pretty much. And then the leftovers just go here into special defense here. Now, if you want, you can make this a little bit more damage on the Farigiraf, right? Where you can invest into the third bump. So if you were interested in that, you can definitely do it. It would be at 236, by the way. Otherwise, I still recommend you keep some of this bulk here, especially when it's something like Dragonite, for example. Okay, so we got our Farigiraf spread here. Indeed, we can keep this one relatively standard. I'm still just going to go Relaxed Nature here with 0 speed, and then just full, HP over here with the defense, and then 1 point in the special defense. Again, nice even number here with the Psychic Seeds. Now, normally I would put this to 176, again, for that factor of 16 in case Rillaboom wants to come in, but then I lose the optimization and the special defense, right? So, pros and cons, I rather keep the SPDF and then just add 1 more point into the HP. Right, now the Incineroar. So either way, again, you can either go with something like Brave here, where you have like 0 speed Incineroar, as a big damage dealer, or you can just go Adamant, right, and then just have like at least 2 points invested in the Incin. And I went with 2 points. Again, I was just testing things, right? This is not like, clear cut set in stone. I just wanted to know the speed interactions between the two. So either way, you can do whatever you want with the Farigiraf and the Incineroar in terms of their speed. As long as you know who is going first, that's what matters. Because again, they have the same speed tier. You don't want the same EV investment because then you don't know who's going first. So I went to Adamant 196 because again, this is the third benchmark here. And then in reality, I just wanted to also be super bulky, right? So I just maxed the HP in this case, right? And then just 1 point in the defense, and then leftovers was in special defense. Can we have other EV spreads beside this? Probably, right? But at the very least, I still wanted the damage. So either way, Brave versus Adamant, it's up to you for your call. This is at least a starting point here. If you want to take this down to like 116 instead, and then put more into your bulk, you can definitely do that as well. But I wanted to try out more damage first. And usually when you're testing teams, it's always, it's a general good idea to start out with more damage first before the bulk. So this way you can at least see what you're KOing. And then after that, you can figure out if you want to survive certain things or not. But because I want to play the Incineroar offensive, I went with more of a stronger Adamant spread. All right. The Lilligant here, you can also, again, this is a Sash mod. This could be an easy 252 idea. And what's really good with Lilligant, again, it's that 105 speed tier, which again lets you outspeed, something like an Annihilate, right? Because again, they cap at 156, so 157 is going to help you a lot. Especially if they don't have goggles, you can put them to sleep if you need to. The Hatterene here, this one will be Quiet Nature, and we are going to optimize for the Life Orb chip here. Where's the Quiet Nature, right? So at the very least, max special attack here, and then 256 EVs left. Let's just go to the highest mark possible, just ending in a 9 there, right? And then dumping the rest into the weaker of our 2 bulks. In this case, it's going to be defense. So again, I end in a 9 because again, I want to optimize the chip damage I'll be taking with Life Orb, because again, it's 1/10 of my max HP. If I push the threshold over 1 like this, now it's 160, so now this is 16 points of damage per turn. Why would you take unnecessary Life Orb chip? So undercut the Life Orb threshold value by 1, because now this is 15.9, right? Points of damage per take, but there's no such thing as taking 15.9 points of Life Orb damage. It'll just automatically round down to 15, but I have the highest amount of HP possible where I'm only taking 15 points of damage, not 16, okay? So that's the Hatterene spread here. Torkoal, again, nothing too crazy here. Just go Quiet Nature here. Max, right? 0 speed investment. Right here. If anything, you can even do something like this. Go 176, right? For the Rillaboom number, in case they bring it. But this is all you need out of your Torkoal in this case, right? And Terrifire is just going to do a whole bunch of damage. So that's it, in all honesty. Like, it's not very difficult EV spreads here that we can assign for Brian's team here. Again, there was a goal with my Farigiraf. There was a goal with my Incineroar here. and then everything else was just relatively standard 252 stuff. So let's try this out in a couple of games, and let's see if we can really take advantage of, you know, close combat Incineroar and expanding force Farigiraf, and then of course Torkoal as the sleeper in the back. All right, so let's look at this one here. So he's got the Incineroars Gholdengo idea. There's the Kamo that is also slightly rising as of late, and there's the Ursaluna and the Alola Nacta. So pretty balanced team here. But again, that Incin Gholdengo is probably going to come, right? Especially when we have something like Indeedee Hatterene over here. So this is where like our Incineroar looks really good. Okay, so I'm going to lead with our Incineroar, and I'm going to lead Farigiraf here, and they're going to go with their Incineroar, and there it is. There's the Gholdengo, right? So again, this is where like Terrifier looks really good. This is where like our Fake Out looks really good, but I just wanted to pressure the Gholdengo right from the get-go here, right? So there's the Flare Blitz just in case he wanted to go for it, but you know, this is exactly what I was talking about. Like, he did switch into the Amoonguss, but that's fine, because again, now he has to take the KO. The Amoonguss can't really do like a whole lot. He did knock off my Throat Spray, and he did get me to -1 here, but because I have the spread move here, I'm able to make a good trade and take out the Amoonguss, so now he can't take advantage of Spore here, right? And don't forget, I do have the Torkoal in the back, so even though he did sleep my Incineroar, this is fine. I just want the Indeedee here, right? Because again, I just wanted to reposition my Farigiraf here. I know he wants the Incin, okay, regardless. So he does go for the Earth Power and takes it out. There's the Parting Shot, and he goes into his own Gholdengo. Now, this is fine because, again, free switch and Trick Room. Guess what happens next? We got the Torkoal. He goes into his own Incineroar. He's trying to resist the Eruption here, right? But here we go. Helping Hand and Eruption, and goodbye Ursaluna, right? And, you know, there's not a whole lot that can really take that, especially when it's Specs in the Sun Helping Hand. Gholdengo, again, one more Trick Room, but again, he doesn't really have a whole lot here. And because again, that Gholdengo did not have Protect. It was in fact a Scarf Gholdengo, so he has no choice, right? Because again, he's just going to get cooked. All right, so this one was a little bit of a strange team here, but again, there is the idea of the double grass with Rillaboom, Amoonguss, and even Volcarona here. Now, again, this is something where they may consider bringing the Rillaboom, but this is where like our Farigiraf and our Indeedee looks really strong here. And also technically our Incin looks pretty good here as well. We pressure a lot of his mons besides maybe the Primarina over there. And that's totally fine because we can deal with the Primarina if he does bring it. And he does, right? So there's Mandibuzz Primarina. Right, I'm going to go Lilligant Torkoal because I see that, you know, I don't know if you want to bring the Rillaboom into something like this. So I'm just going to go ham here. He got scared. He thought it was going to be, you know, Leaf Blade into Primarina, but no, I'm just going to go with After You Eruption. And don't forget, you have that ability to do that here. There is a Abomasnow, there's Volcarona yet again. Technically, I can still do the same thing with After You Eruption here because, again, I am faster. But it could have been Max Speed Volcarona, who knows. So I just wanted to play it safe here. Just take out the Abomasnow with the close combat. It's totally fine here. Right, and again, there is the Heat Wave. It'll get me down to Sash, that's fine. But now, look what we get to do, right, on the next one. I know he can't beat this Indeedee. I miss a Sleep Powder, but it doesn't matter. In fact, I want the Lilligant to go down here because now I get to go with the Trick Room. Free switch here. That means Torkoal gets to come in, and it gets to click the button that we all know it gets to click, and that is the Eruption with the Choice Specs here. And again, Volcarona can't take that either, especially when it's the only one on the field. This one is against Marco Silva's Torkoal Sun team. Again, this is where the Terrifier Farigiraf is going to be really, really good. And, you know, our own Incin being able to intimidate their Ursaluna and their own Incineroar as well. And then we can't get intimidated either because, again, we have the Clear Amulet. So it's going to be Jumpluff Zard here. Probably Torkoal in the back somewhere just to give the Zard that boost here. But, again, you know, he has to kind of rely here on the Sleep Powder. And he does miss. Now, if he does get that, good for him. But either way, my Incin is still looking pretty good here, right? I went for the knockoff into the Zard just to weaken it. I could have even clicked Flare Blitz just to get rid of that Jumpluff. But now we're in a great spot. Trick Room comes out. The Incin comes in, but that's just going to be bad, you know, when we click Close Combat into their Incineroar too, right? So there's the Hyper Voice. We get rid of the Zard. We do some good chip on the Incin. And now we're basically +1, right? And now he can go into his own Torkoal, but guess what? That's not going to work here, right? He does go Terrifier here. There's the Eruption. We do live it. This is where like that extra bit of special defense really helps. There's the close combat into the Incineroar, right? So that's good news there. There's the Hyper Voice here. And, you know, this is part of like where I was still like, you know, experimenting with the Farigiraf Incineroar EV spreads, especially with like the speed tier and whatnot. So Sometimes in some of these games, you may see like my Incin outspeed my own Farigiraf, right? But I was still playing with the spreads at the time there. But anyway, clear eruption play, just melt things, right? And then that's pretty much it. Same idea. But you got to see the value of the close combat from the Incin. Another Incineroar Gholdengo lead that they probably may bring against our Indeedee Hatterene stuff here. But again, we have that advantage. We have our Incineroar that's going to make him think. And we do have Intimidate support into that Ursaluna if we have to do so. And we still have a Fairy type here that we can always use against the back Scalper if we have to, right? So anyway, I'm going to go with Incineroar Indeedee this time just to try something else here against their potential Incineroar Gholdengo League. Again, they're going to lead this a lot because they kind of have to stop your Hatterene and stuff. But now I'm going to test this Gholdengo. So what does he do? He goes with the Terrasil. You see he got scared. He didn't want to take a Flare Blitz. He didn't want to take a knockoff. Make it rain. Decent damage. Our Indeedee just stays out of range there, right? There's the knockoff. Again, doesn't even KO. But now we go for our knockoff, and there goes his Choice Scarf, right? So now he's -1. He goes into back Scalper. That's fine, right? Because I went Helping Hand, and there's the knockoff into the Indeedee, and now this is a close combat into their Incin, and there it goes, off the board. There you see the value, again, of the close combat from our Incineroar. So I make a little trade there, right? Indeedee for their Incin. Now we have Hatterene here. He's going to go into his Gholdengo here, right? I'm going to go Terra Water. There's the Protect here. Okay, close combat yet again. So goodbye, Gholdengo. And, you know, it's kind of funny because, you know, the fact that we were able to maneuver around that is kind of funny. But anyway, now we just go with Dazzling Gleam, free chip damage. There's not really a whole lot he can do here. Like, again, Facade does kill the Hatterene, but I did so much into their back Scalper, it doesn't really matter. I probably should have just went into the backs, but I thought he might Protect there. So we take the Glaive Rush. But again, you know, that Ursaluna's on the timer here. Now we just go into Torkoal. Doesn't really matter. I probably should have just clicked Eruption here anyway. I thought he might try for like, no, I thought he was going to go for like Ice Shard, but again, I forgot that Psychic Terrain was still up there. So that was on us, but either way, like it still would have been fine and just cleaned up from here because again, we're in the sun, we have Specs, he's so low, it's just safer to go for the Eruption there. So that's on us, but we still come out with the win because we were so far ahead there. Okay, so this is where something may just kind of get annoying, and I chose this game specifically because that Flamigo does have Wide-Guard. So you do have to, you know, consider that, right? Because a lot of your stuff is spread moves, but there is the occasional Wide-Guard user like a Flamigo here. So you have to be aware of that and kind of have to focus it down. But it does get a little bit of an annoying thing with when he has the Mousehole there. So that's something you have to consider there. So I still went with Incin, right? And I'm still going with Farigiraf. All right, he's going to go with Flamigo, and he went with the Mousehole here. Very interesting lead by them, but again, it does make sense to an extent, right? So I'm just going to go into Indeedee here. Try for like big expanding force damage. He might click Wide Guard, he might not. There's the Follow Me, right? There's the close combat. He definitely was going for it. I thought he might click that into Incin. He said, no, I'm going for Farigiraf. I get this down to Sash. I don't pick up the Mousehole there. That was a little unfortunate, but still, there's the Follow Me, right? Goes for Population Bomb, and that's fine. Because again, this is all about the potential setup here. So even though I do take a lot of damage on the Indeedee, it's still fine because again, the Farigiraf is staying alive and we get to click Trick Room here, right? So now I just go into Torkoal here because again, I still fear the Wide Guard, and he does do that because otherwise Farigiraf doesn't really get to do anything, right? So I just needed to remove that off the board, and that means I do take Population Bomb damage into my Torkoal. So no Eruption really from the Torkoal, but I still have Heat Wave in the sun with Choice Specs with Helping Hand. That's still pretty good, and the Mousehole is so low, right, that Heat Wave is still going to pick up anyway. There's Gholdengo, right? That is something that you don't want, so I'm just going to go Incin here, right, just to be able to reposition my Indeedee here, because I know he's going to go Terra Dragon here. All right, there's the Eruption, okay, just to deal some damage. I didn't want to miss. I wanted to at least guarantee the KO onto the Mousehole here, because I know when he does click Make It Rain, he's going to trap himself with the special attack reduction, and now I'm in a great spot. Now this Rillaboom is kind of cooked here, right? Because again, Gholdengo does click Protect, but again, there's still 2 turns of Trick Room. Rillaboom can't really click anything, no Fake Out. Now we just hit him with the Flare Blitz, and that's it. See, this Rillaboom was rendered useless. All he did was just come in and die. And now it's a 2-on-1 with Gholdengo versus Incin Farigiraf. He gets another Protect here, but this actually just kind of helps us because we're the ones that were kind of low. So my Incin and my Farigiraf are getting even more HP recovery here. So this is technically helping us more than him. So I'm going to preserve my Farigiraf a little bit further with the longevity here. This Gholdengo is going to go further down, which means my Farigiraf is going to live. But I can just click knock off here. No more Life Orb. Now our Farigiraf is definitely going to live, right? So that's all I need. And there's the Make It Rain. Look how easily we take this, right? No Life Orb, all that special attack damage reduction. We got enough, recovery where we took it relatively comfortably. And we ended up winning there. So again, just be mindful of the wide guard users like a Flamigo or like a Galley there, because you do have to play around that a little bit. But you can surprise them with the Indeedee switch in with the Expanding Force. But it is something that you have to take into account of. If you can catch them clicking wide guard, that means no attack. So maybe you can even just sneak in a pivot like what we were doing. But sometimes it just really wasn't all that safe. But I still had enough damage where it didn't really matter. All right, this is another Trick Room team of the other side here. So, what's really selling here is the Tyranitar. So you definitely can bring that into Torkoal there. It's probably even AV, but again, this is where close combat from Incineroar looks really good. This is where Intimidate looks really good. We pressure everything here technically. Like this whole team can pressure, gets pressured by the Incineroar, but the Tyranitar is a rock type there. But again, we can just neuter its damage. So I'm gonna go with Farigiraf Indeedee this time, right? I don't see any fake out on his end, and I have terrain advantage here. So yeah, I do have the option to do this, right? But I just want to go into Incin now, right? And there is the Make It Rain, because again, that Volcarona unfortunately does have that quote unquote struggle bug idea, right? So I wanted to at least preserve the Farigiraf there. And now I just go for Trick Room anyway. So now he has to make a choice. He goes into Tyranitar. This is fine. Okay, because again, I can still click Make It Hand, and I still remove the AV if I have to do something later. And the Volcarona is just clicking Fiery Dancer, hoping for a special attack boost, right? So now, guess what the T-Tar has to do? Die, right? Because close combat is 4 times weak for our Tyranitar, and there you go. Instant value again, free Psychic Chip damage, Fiery Dance again comes out, but again, that helps us because that is the free switch. Right, and there's still Trick Room turns remaining. Here comes Torkoal. We have Weather. Their Weather is gone. Guess what we get to do? Terra Fire. Okay, Helping Hand. Go for the Eruption. He didn't even try and protect. He said, "I'm just gonna click Rage Powder. Goodbye." Right, and again, the focus was to remove their Weather first before our Weather gets to take over. Right, and he just helped us even more by picking up the KO on the Incin, which got us the free switch into the Torkoal. Alright, so this is like Kilowatt Garchomp stuff with King. There's a King Gambit too. This guy has got a pretty interesting team here. Alright, one more. So he's running the Rabombi Kamo stuff there with the Hisuian Typhlosion. We do see Ursaluna and the Matcha Gacha guy, right? And then of course the Corviknight here. Very interesting team. Pretty cool team, honestly, right? Because again, you got Earthquake Synergy, you have Trick Room mode, you got a Tailwind mode, you got a Fake Tears mode. So all of that is annoying. And again, because it's not Whimsicott, he does get to click Fake Tears into something like our Incineroar, right? So we do have to be aware for that. We do have a slightly favorable Trick Room mode, right? Just because, we do have some slower options than the Ursaluna. So we're going to see how he plays it. I'm going to go with Indeedee Farigiraf here, just to be threatening Expanding Force into that combo if he does decide to bring it. It's going to be Rabombi and the Farigiraf here. Now, he plays this relatively well, right? Because I'm going for Trick Room here. He pivots out into Ursaluna. Smart play. Right, I just went Terrifier just to survive Eruption plays, and we do, right? Indeedee takes that well. Okay, there's the Trick Room. Okay, I probably also could have just clicked some Psychic move onto the Indeedee there. I don't think I needed to click the spin, but again, I was also scared of the Fake Tears idea, right? Anyway, so chip damage there, right, into the Matcha Gacha guy, the big sip guy, right? So I'm gonna go into Hatterene here. I have to just try and pivot my way out of this. Hatterene takes a lot of damage, doesn't get KO'd, fortunately enough for us. We do have Incin, of course, but it's then two turns of Trick Room there. Typhlosion comes out, right? So he actually just protects the Ursaluna here, protects the Typhlosion, double protects here, right? So I don't get to threaten the Expanding Force play. Now, again, this is all fine and dandy, but there's still one more turn of Trick Room. Now, he actually decides to save the Ursaluna, right? And I'm going to go into Incineroar. Now, what I could have also done was just like picked up the KO here. And then, it's just Ursaluna and Typhlosion versus like my Hatterene and my Farigiraf there. But I pivoted out instead because I wanted to get ready for fake out pressure. So I'm ending up doing this. He actually tears the Typhlosion. I think that's worse, right? But he wants the extra eruption damage. I kind of understand it. And now here comes the Ursaluna. Okay, there's another eruption. We're able to take that. Farigiraf just has just enough EVs there, right? Close combat into the Ursaluna. Okay, and then Hyper Voice here is pretty good. And what's really good about this Incineroar is that because the Typhlosion has been chipped quite a bit, and I know that's not specs, right? There's the Heat Wave, we live just a little bit, right? And then we're able to just KO there. Honestly, I think he played better than us. I think we just had better EVs in all honesty. But again, EVs is also part of the game. All right, so there's the team one more time. We'll put the paste in the video description below, so feel free to try this variant out. And again, if you got your own spread with some of these mons, then, feel free to use that as well. Otherwise, feel free to use ours. I still think you want the Incineroar and the Farigiraf to be like offensive natures, right? Whether it be modest or quiet versus something like adamant or brave. Either way, I still think they want to be offensive, especially when you have only offensive moves on Incineroar, as opposed to having like pivot moves like Parting Shot or U-Turn, because you want this to do damage, right? But yeah, that's it. So give it a go. Let us know how you do. We'll be back with another video in the next one. And also, as always, if you're interested in getting coaching from us, feel free to sign up on the channel with the tier 3 sub, where you get to have a one-on-one team building session with us, just like this, where we get to hash out all the EVs. If you're preparing for a tournament or a local or a cup, we can be of service, right? And if you want a little bit more than the team building, if you want also feedback in terms of battling and critiquing your play, we can do that as well with the tier 4 sub, where you're able to send us Pokemon Showdown replays, and then we can see how you play a team, and then we can give you feedback based on the interactions, right? So that'll be tier 4. And again, you can click the link in the video description to join the channel with either of the tier 3 or the tier 4 sub, or you look in the video description below, or in the pinned comment section is what I meant to say, where we have the same link to join the channel with that tier 3 sub. Then you can join the Discord for free. You can join it right now, even if you don't want to become a tier member. We have just under 1,300 members in our Discord, where we have a pretty good VGC community that we have been known to grow. All right, that's it. We'll be back in the next one, guys. Peace out and have a good one.